Cześć, witajcie w kolejnym odcinku podcastu do biegania, w którym głównym tematem będzie doskonalenie swojej techniki biegowej. Dzisiaj poza tym, że możecie nas usłyszeć, możecie nas również zobaczyć, ale to nie wszystko. Dodatkowo mamy również pierwszy odcinek, który będzie nagrywany w języku angielskim. Pozwólcie, że zatem zacznę. Hi everyone again and welcome to another Podcast do Biegania episode. This one will be very, very special as we have great guests and I have to apologize for my poor English. Luckily for you, my guest, Gil Kramer, is also known as Coach G, is English native, and I'm sure it will be much better to listen to him. And on top of his excellent accent, he's a very knowledgeable guy and awesome person all around. Welcome, Coach G. Thank you so much for accepting my invitation. I'm super excited that we're doing this. And first of all, tell me, how are you?
Cześć, Gosha, and thank you so much for having me on your podcast. Hi to all of your listeners. Your English is far better than my Polish, so I'm really glad that we're doing this in English. Absolute pleasure. How am I doing? I'm doing well, actually. It's a bit cold. It's a bit windy here in the UK at the moment, but all warm and ready to have a real good conversation with you.
Super exciting for that. Before we will get to our main topic, which is obviously perfecting running technique, I would like to ask a little bit about your background. Can you talk about yourself? Did you know that we met actually 8 years ago? Long time.
Oh. And yeah, I mean, flies. It's incredible, and yeah, that was while I was working with Nike. That was such an incredible time. Learned so much and got an opportunity to spend some time with some really cool people. Just my background. I originally grew up in South Africa. Much hotter climate, much bigger outdoor spaces, and that was kind of where I fell in love with movement and found my interest for human movement, really. It was great. It was a good beginning. I was very lucky to have some sound mentors while I was learning and cutting my teeth on understanding the human body. And then I needed to find out more. I needed to grow. I needed to educate myself. And the next step was getting closer to where all of the knowledge was. It was either moving to the States or to the UK. And at that time, the Olympics had just been announced in London, and I thought that would be where all of the knowledge was flowing. So next thing I knew, I had a plane ticket and I was on my way to the big smoke, to London City. And it just kind of grew from there. I got a chance to meet, talk to, and actually share ideas with some really interesting pros, some really interesting fitness professionals, and some guys leading the way in knowledge and understanding of how we move. Running being the most prolific, really. It was something that I've always been interested in, and way back in the day, I was fairly good at, but again, there was very little knowledge on how to get actually better. So if you didn't have the genetics in place at the beginning, it was really hard to kind of get to the next level. And that for me was the the clicking point. It's why is there learning and education for cycling, for boxing, for swimming? You'll learn how to row, you'll learn how to do karate and all of those kind of movements and skills. But there's nothing for one of the most fundamental human movements, which is running. And that's where the next evolution of my education, knowledge, and interest grew.
Yeah, especially that running is still part of so many other sports, right? So that's amazing. So can you tell me how actually it turned out to be that you're right now pose method advocate and a coach? What's the story behind this? Because as I understand, this was the next step for you, right?
That's very true. So again, in South Africa in school, I joined the athletics team. I was comfortable at a certain point, so I could run, and I could run fairly well for that level. I became the vice captain of the athletics team. I was the fastest longer or middle distance runner on the track team. I loved it, but I was always plagued with injuries. It's that stereotypical thing in school where, you have niggles, you have injuries, your coach says, run it off. You say, yes, coach, and you just carry on. And when you're younger, you recover really quickly. So it's not a big thing. You kind of put it to the back of your mind, and 2 days later, your knees are good, your ankles are good, you're back on track. So it wasn't a big thing. But when I left school, I didn't have that backup. I didn't have those coaches pushing me. And also, you start to age out a little bit. And if you weren't picked up at a certain point, you didn't have that extra knowledge, that extra skill. So I kind of left running just because of the pain and injury and discomfort. I got into cycling. I was mountain biking. I raced mountain bikes for a while. And then I got into boxing. So boxing, again, was kind of where, you had that skill. You go in and you go, all right, fine, I want to box. Coach says, right, do you know how to block? Nope. Okay, so what we do, we teach you how to block, then we teach you how to jab, then we teach you how to hook. Then we put all those combinations together. And once you've got all of that, then we'll think about putting you into the ring. All right, fine. So I did that for a few years, enjoyed it, but kind of got to the end of the actual teaching the skills side and got into the ring. And I was like, okay, that's all right, but I want to learn more. So I got into mixed martial arts, which is a combination of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, and a few other martial arts. And again, we went back to the basics. You walk in there as a boxer and they all kind of laugh at you and go, that's good and all, but can you roll? Can you block a kick? And there again, you start off on the bottom. You start off with the skills. Can you get into a safe position on the ground? Can you tackle someone to the ground? Can you block a punch coming from top rather than from straight? And again, all of these things kind of echoed in the back of my mind. It's education, it's understanding, it's skills of movement before you actually use those to your advantage to be able to upskill. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the point at which I decided to move to the UK. So I was practicing to get my blue belt in Jiu-Jitsu, which I put to the side and moved over to the UK. And when I got to the UK, I felt that Jiu-Jitsu may not be the safest, just in case I pick up an injury while I'm building up, my experience and my client base again. So I looked for something that I could do, that I used to do, that I enjoyed doing, and that was running. And guess what? All of those niggles, those injuries, those pains came straight back. So here I am, a little bit more educated, thinking, okay, hold on a second. I'm 28. I shouldn't be hurting this much. How? Where do I go? Where do I find the knowledge? Where do I find the information? Where do I find the people who can help me? Doing my research, speaking to loads of people, and the pose method kept popping up, along with a few other names. But they had some sound science behind what they were talking about. And this Romanoff fellow kept talking about the ease of running, the relaxation, and very much the perception of, perception of how you move versus what you're doing when you actually move. Started to get more and more interested, started to read into it. For me, at that time, very little resource. So I went to the next level up, the level 2 coach, and said, I want to become a coach. I want to understand this knowledge, but I also want to share it with my clients. So I did the level 1 course, built up my knowledge, built up my skill, and then started to practice on myself. 5 kilometers pain-free turned into 15, turned into 20. Suddenly I'm running 30 kilometers, no problem. And this was at the start of, where you hear about Born to Run and, Scott Jurek and all of those.
We all know that period of time.
Exactly. So this is where I kind of thought, all right, fine, let's see. Maybe I'm not the fastest guy, but how far can I run before the wheels fell off? And I just started running further and further. And then weekends I'd go on, get a train out to a certain point and then just run as far as I could. And then when I couldn't anymore, get the next train home. And, those turned into 50 Ks, 50 miles, I'd be doing 2 of those a weekend. And it was working really. I was applying the skills and using them while I was running, and it was working. So the next iteration was to apply that to my client base. And that's kind of where my love and my closeness to the Pose method and how they've developed a method for educating people has blossomed, really.
Mm-hmm. Great story. So many details that I would like to go into right now, but maybe let's stay focused. So can you answer the question how to run right now? Because I'm aware that that is a very broad question, but also this is one of the first highlights from this book. Maybe some of our listeners know it already. The book name is Dr. Nicholas Romanov's Pose Method on Running. And I'm wondering if this book, or rather the whole method itself, answers that exact question, how to run.
Oh, that is a big question. And the answer for me, in my experience, is there is no 100% way to run perfectly. And my philosophy is there is no right way to run, and there is also no wrong way to run. These are definites. And when it comes to humans, at the moment, there are no definites. What I tend to look at is a spectrum of how efficient are you or how inefficient are you. Now, with the Pose method, the whole idea here is to become more efficient at moving. Decrease the amount of force in your body and increase the amount of ease that you move with. So that, again, is the body position and, again, the skill of movement. And those are the key aspects to the Pose method, along with a few other aspects. So you've got to take into consideration breathing. You've got to take into consideration external effects on your body or forces on your body. Say, for instance, if you're someone who sits down often, you're going to have a different muscular development than someone who works standing up on their feet all day. If you look at a builder who moves heavy bricks around and is active all day, but is really tired at the end of the day, is going to have different needs to run more efficiently than someone who sits behind a computer all day and, who may focus heavily on mental skills, but physically they're very, very sedentary. So again, is Pose the perfect answer? Is there a perfect answer? At the moment, for me, no. Is there an answer that helps people get better and more efficient? 100% yes. There is definitely a way to get better and become more efficient at your movement.
Mm-hmm. Great. I actually didn't expect that you will go so decisive on already on the Pose method itself, but it's great because I was always wondering if your approach is to go along with all those details that are explained in the book or in the method itself. And I have to say that I struggled when I was going through it. I struggled with trying to combine all of this knowledge into my own training. So I know that it's important to work on the posture and technique, but in the same time I was always confused, like how much as a runner I should change my own natural way of movement. And that's actually my next question. So how far the average runner should focus on improving this his own posture and technique, because we've all heard, I guess, that if you will do too much, you can just break your natural way of movement and actually cause more damage than the benefits of it. So what's your perspective on that?
So that's actually a very good question, and it's again a question that gets asked often. So here's my idea, my thoughts on this, right? So you look at your natural way of running. If you gauge how much energy you use running that way versus changing it and seeing if you use less energy, then you'll know for certain whether the way you've been running in the past is right for you or not. Now, there's a caveat to that. In some situations, changing the way that you run may be less efficient. If you've been running a certain way for a certain period of time, to change that could create more issues. If you have knee pain, if you have back pain, you may be running the way that you do for a specific reason. Now, having said that, there are also reasons to go and have it checked out by a physio or even by a surgeon or a doctor who could help make sure that you are able to run well into your old age. Having said that, the pose method, the principle behind Dr. Romanoff's theory or method is to become as efficient as possible. That means using physics and reducing the amount of force on your body. We know that less force equals less damage, right? So what we want to do is we want to create a space where there's the least amount of damage on your body, but the most amount of benefit. Going back to the pose method, that is the most scientific way, generally speaking, that you'll achieve that. But everybody's different. Everybody is unique. And everybody needs a little bit of guidance and help sometimes to figure out whether this is the right method or right movement for them, or if they need something slightly different. Again, that's sort of where I come in and go, right, we're judging this on your performance and how well you're doing. If it's creating more issues, if you start to have back pain because you have an underlying issue, then A, we need to find out what that is and fix that, or B, not tamper too much with what you're doing at the moment, because that's going to reduce the amount of comfort, or increase the amount of stress put on your body again, maybe in a different place, and create a space where you're not comfortable. So again, it's about finding that middle ground, that place where you feel comfortable with it. Having said that, it can be difficult to do it by yourself. And that's where, having someone like myself to have a chat with you, have a conversation, see what the best outcome is for you and go forward from that will really help you and put your mind at ease.
Great. You mentioned that there is no one proper way of running and everyone is different, but can you tell or from your own experience maybe summarize who can benefit most from this technique, how those exercises can help the running posture itself, and can it actually make a difference for complete amateurs, or is it more like a pro thing to do?
That is a great question, and it's actually a funny one to answer, because when you say pros versus amateurs, it's hard to kind of differentiate them in this situation. People who run more or who have run a certain way may take longer to adjust to this method versus people that have just started out who may not have an ingrained movement pattern. They may find it actually easier to adjust to this style of running or this method of running. So when we look at this, rather than how advanced they are in their skills, we look at how long they've actually run for. And for me, that gives me an idea of how much more of a challenge it will be to help someone adapt who's been running a certain way for many, many years versus someone who's just starting out, who may have run in school and then stopped for several years and want to get back into it. Now, your question was, would it benefit a beginner
Yeah, as well. And who can benefit most from this method? And is it actually proper for amateurs at all? Because maybe it's, you have to have a certain level of experience to actually, start doing pose method.
Well, so that again is a good point. And what I would say is the people who transfer into running more efficiently the fastest are people who are most open-minded. People who are willing to give it a try and people who are willing to give it a try consistently. That is pretty much what I ask from most of my clients is, look, it's not going to be a fast change. It's not going to be something that you snap your fingers and magic happens. But if you stick with it, if you hang in there, you will see a change and you will feel the difference. It's not going to be a magic overnight experience where you actually feel things happening, but you'll notice that your times will start to drop. You'll notice that you won't feel as stiff or sore after you've run. You'll notice all of these small changes over a longer period of time, but it won't be like these panaceas of running shoes where you put them on and suddenly you feel like you're bouncing, only to find 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, all of that has disappeared because the cushioning has softened, the suspension is now, molded to your feet, and that is all gone. So it's almost the reverse of a quick fix. It takes time, but that effort, that engagement, that commitment, you'll notice these small little changes happening faster and faster as you get better and more efficient at that movement.
Mm-hmm. Great. I think that many runners will be disappointed that this is another thing next to stretching, for example, or warming up, that it takes time and practice to actually work. So sorry, guys, no quick fix here. But
only real fixes here.
Yes, but we promise that it's work. And can you tell me how actual practice looks like? Because this pose method, it's not like one exercise that you're repeating or whatever. It's more complicated. So what element of the method itself are crucial for runner?
Yeah, so the pose method, for those who are new to it, it consists of 3 main pieces of movement: the pull, the fall, and the pose. Now, what we're looking for here is we're looking to put your body in a certain position while you're moving. This position is probably the most efficient to help you move forward. And rather than having the old school idea of pushing yourself forward, we use gravity to pull you forward. The idea here is creating a structure that will withstand gravity in certain places, but allow gravity to pull in others. And that takes a little bit of work muscularly, and it also takes a little bit of work mentally. And again, it takes time to get your body into that position, to feel and to be able to sustain those positions and those poses and that work for the period that you'd like. If you're running a 5K, a 5-kilometer run could take anywhere from 45 minutes to 18 minutes, right? Now, depending on what speed you're running, you'll need to hold and work those positions for that amount of time. And it's just like any other workout. You can't just go into the gym and bench press 100 kilograms for 10 reps and walk out and be absolutely fine with it. Things happen, things need to change. Muscles need to understand what's going on, first of all, to develop, A, and then B, to create a neural pathway so that your body knows what it needs to do. This is where the brain work comes in. So it's not just about creating the place where you do the exercises. It's about understanding what those exercises will mean and translate into. And again, there's three aspects to pose method, and there's hundreds of different exercises that you can apply at different intensities and different timings to make that work for you. But everybody's different. Everybody needs a different touch here and there. And although there are many books and many pieces of guidance out there. There's some great ones at the moment. It can help to have a coach or have someone there just to kind of point you in the right direction and give you some kind of guidance on what's working, what you should do, if you should increase, if you should pull back a little bit, or if you should just hold on to where you are and practice that until you nail it so well that the next step doesn't even feel like a step.
Yeah, actually, you answered my next question, because I was wondering if, for a new person into pose method or someone who would be interested in improving his own technique, the book itself is enough, or is it enough for the beginning, and how to go from the book, which has a lot of details, like I said, to actually implement some of those exercises and this mindset, or thinking about your own technique, your own posture. So what you would suggest is to actually reach out to, for example, you or other coaches, and actually read the book, but also practice with someone who is more into this method, right? That would be.
Yes, that's very true. So the book will definitely help immerse you in the ideas and the concepts, and there are some exercises that will help you. It's one of those things that you need to practice and feel it before. Once you get to the point where you think you have the idea, then getting an assessment, getting it checked out is really important, because what will happen is what you feel, and again, this is perception, and reality are slightly different. And our bodies are attuned to how we feel. And this is why in the beginning, changing your running movement can be quite challenging, because you're going from something that you feel is working to something that is actually working. And how that affects your body is that you'll go from I feel comfortable doing this to hold on a second, this doesn't feel right. This shouldn't feel, here. I shouldn't feel it in this spot. And your body automatically goes, well, I'm tired now. I'm going to go back to how I was, right? As you regress, as you get to the point where your body's now fatigued, you automatically go back to, the kind of start point at which you were. And this is why having someone look at your running technique, having someone check you out and saying, right, you're on your way with this. This is how it works. This is how you should be doing it. This is where you need to work a little bit more. And with Pose, it's great because there's a very simple video assessment that you can send to a coach, you can send to myself. I can have a look at it, and I can tell you pretty much where you are and what you'll need to do for your next steps to progress. So it shouldn't take very long assessments. Depending on the coach and the level of their skill, can take anywhere from half an hour to 2 or 3 days to kind of assess a video. And then they'll get back to you. And again, the 3 main aspects, the pose, the fall, and the pull, will be discussed, and what you'll need to do to improve those or to be aware of what's happening.
Okay. That's great. We're talking quite a lot that the method itself is very wide and has many different elements. But what I found interesting in the book itself is that this claim that keep repeating, the Dr. Romanov keeps repeating, everything is simple. So it's like a contrast for me. Everything is simple. So what he means when he says that everything is simple regarding running or regarding method itself? How you understand that?
Well, if you ever met Dr. Romanov, he is a fascinating guy. And what you read in that book is the iceberg, the tip of the iceberg in terms of what that man understands, his knowledge, his understanding of movement, of running, the research that he's done. He is this encyclopedia of functional movement for running. So when he says it should be easy, it should feel easy, it should feel effortless, it should get to a point where running is just that. If you've ever run and got to that point where you just feel like you're gliding, it doesn't happen very often. until you understand what you need to do. And then it becomes more regular. But you get to that place where you feel like you're just flying and you could go forever and ever and ever. And that's what he means. Everything should feel like it's connected. Everything should feel easy and everything should be connected. You are connected to the earth, and how you're connected to the earth should be simple and light. How your body flows through the air should be easy and comfortable. How your mental state should be while you're running should be free and comfortable. So everything does get to that easy point. However, if you're forcing yourself to do it, it's never going to work. You know, there's this one there's one interview with Usain Bolt way back when, and you know, I've never heard it coined so well, so succinctly. I'm not going to do the Jamaican accent, by the way. It's just like,
oh no, now we are disappointed.
The interviewer asked, you know, what does it feel like to run so fast? And his answer was just plain bold smooth. He said, I have nothing to compare it to, but if I had to say anything, I think it feels the closest I'd ever be to flying, and that's what we're looking for. That's what we're aiming for, is that feeling of flight, that feeling of just gliding. And that's what Dr. Romanoff is talking about, where it talks about everything should be easy. It should just feel.
Well, hopefully everyone will feel that at least during few runs in their life. So that's our wish for every runner, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Cool. Injuries, bad technique, and personal limitations. Those are three elements that allegedly ruin or can ruin our results. Is discussed practice tackle all of those in the same way, or how it tackles those issues?
Okay, so let's look at like personal performance. So this is something that I work on a lot, and it's all about reframing what you feel you should and what you can achieve. Obviously, in our new era of Insta famous, Insta fabulous lifestyles, you know, you see these clips of people running, you know, mega mileage, and you see these people running mega speeds and you know, countless days in a row. I think the thing that's lost on that is all of the bits that happen in between. And for me, the magic isn't the event. The magic is the training, the preparation for the event. And I always kind of explain it like practicing for an exam. You know, you go to your lessons, you learn as much as you can. You know, for us students, you know, you want to ask the teacher as much as you can. You want to dig through those notes and those textbooks to find every ounce of usable information. Next, you need to put them all into an order that makes sense in your mind, and that's where you make the notes. That's where the practice comes in. You write the notes, you rewrite the notes, you write, you know, stories, you write conversations about it, you articles, all of these kind of things. That's the next phase. And then when you're ready, you've done all of your research and you've done all of your practice, then you step into the exam, which is the race or the event that you're going to do. Now, the outcome of that does not mean that you are absolutely perfect, you know everything, or you're absolutely awful and you don't know anything. All it is a number on a path to your knowledge greatness, your perfect you. These races, these perceptions of what we should be achieving in a marathon, a marathon time of X, a marathon, an ultra marathon length of whatever. Why? What makes it so important? Look, I'm a distance runner. I'm a big distance runner. For me, it's not about finishing an ultra marathon 100 miles in sub 24 hours or you know, coming first. Like I've done those. It's It's an on the day kind of thing. For me, it's, did I enjoy myself? Was I able to put everything that I learned and practice into practice on the day? Was I able to achieve the things that I wanted to in that event?
Mhm.
That's what we need to look at when we go for an event. If we're running a 10K, why do you want to get X time? Is it not better to run a good race and then whatever time you get at the end is a reflection of how well you did on whatever you were planning to do? So, for instance, sorry, this is something that I get into quite deeply because it's quite
No, I don't mind. Go ahead.
So let's say, for instance, you wanted to run a 10K and you'd never run a 10K faster than 50 minutes, right? So, all right,
Yeah.
fine. I want to run a 50-minute 10K. So you train, everything is 50 minutes, aiming for 50 minutes. So you've just limited yourself to running a 10K in 50 minutes. Because if you were running to do as best as you could, why couldn't you have run that 10K in 47 minutes, 45 minutes, hey, 35 minutes? You put that limitation on yourself because you're saying, I've never done 50 minutes, so I want to do 50 minutes. I'm not saying everybody could do that, but if you're limiting yourself by an external factor that you have very little control over, that's going to slow everything down. If you said, right, I'm going to go out and run that 10K, and I'm going to run that 10K doing the best movement I can. I'm going to practice my heart rate training so well that when I hit a hill, I know exactly what my heart rate should be. When I go downhill, I don't even have to glance at my watch. I can feel my heart rate. I know how many steps I'm doing to the minute. I know exactly how much fluid I have in my water bottle. I know that, the only thing that I have to really worry about is the weather and the person that I'm overtaking in front of me. And when you get to the finish line and you look up and it says 47 rather than 50, how happy are you? You just smashed not only the time that you never thought you could, but better. So it's about reframing and going, why do I want X? Why not be the best runner I can? And then whatever the outcome, I'm happy regardless,
That's a complete change of mindset, which I think is very interesting because we all look for those, for example, running plans to hit certain time, and we start basically from that end result that you referring to. So it's it's very interesting, and I think it's also very hard.
Yeah.
But totally worth to try, especially that most of us, we have many of those races in our lifetime. So I think that it's a good thing to actually, at least try to change this way of thinking and planning and do what you advised. So thank you for that. That was awesome.
Absolute pleasure. And also, sorry, going back to the pose method, right? This is a method of movement. It doesn't have or really reflect too much on your actual distance that you're running. So it doesn't matter if you're training for a 5K or you're training for a 50 miler. You can apply these skills to your running and still do the mileage or the speed or the training that you would normally do for your running. The programs that you have, the 5K, 10K, whatever, and add in these as strength and skill movements and almost educating your body while you're developing that training for, or that's the word I'm looking for here, the conditioning is the word I'm looking for, the conditioning for that distance that you're trying to run.
Mm-hmm. Great. You know what I was thinking, because recently, a few weeks ago, we actually ended a course, one of the first that you conducted fully online, I think, right? Is that correct? Yeah. Okay.
and it went so well, and I'm so glad you were able to join.
Yeah, I was happy about this as well, and thank you for inviting me. That was fun. And during this weekly practice that we had over Zoom, we were actually doing quite a lot of breathing exercises, or we were talking about breathing quite a lot. And I was wondering if that's the part of the method itself, or is it more your own experience and your own suggestions for all of us runners?
So that is actually a good point. It's not specific to the pose method. So pose is only one aspect of many that I use for my runners and my athletes. The mental aspect is very important, as well as the holistic approach to training. So when I train people, I aim to make sure that their longevity in whatever they're doing is extended well into old age. And again, I try and find the methods that work the best and that are holistic, that are whole body incorporations, rather than just specifically one thing. Because it's great if you are a pro athlete and you have a nutritionist for your nutrition, and you have a physiotherapist, and you have a doctor, and you have a movement coach, and you have a strength coach, and they're all specific to one thing. We, as just general people, if you have the time and the finances for that, absolutely go for it, not a problem. But generally, we are looking to be healthy, and we are looking to excel at a few things, running being the most prominent now, because, and especially after lockdowns and the pandemic, it's something that you can do anywhere, anytime. And it's something that friend of mine, an Israeli ultramarathon distance runner, he says this, it's one of these things. Running, it doesn't matter, it takes out any separators. It doesn't matter your age, your financial background, the color of your skin, the age, the gender, education.
Yeah.
Everybody is equal. And for me, it's about helping people to go longer and be able to run for longer. So adding in things like breath work is important, and it's something that I've been working on for some time now. And it's only really recently that I've been able to share it with people, and they go, oh, right, this now makes sense, especially after, the pandemic being a respiratory issue. People are now very aware of being able to breathe and having strong lungs and the muscles that help you breathe. So breath work is super important. Again, it's about allowing people the opportunity to understand it, rather than just going, well, if you're not doing it, you're wrong. So is it for everybody? Well, we all breathe. Do we breathe well? Do we breathe efficiently? Well, some people do, some people don't. Is there a way to breathe when you're running? Again, there's no perfect answer, but there are definitely more efficient ways to breathe and less efficient ways to breathe. Old school is 3 steps in, 3 steps out is kind of one of those like wives' tales, like things that I tried to figure out where it came from. It was a coach, years back. Yeah, we should try that. But honestly, it's about developing the strength in the two main muscles that help you breathe. And by doing that, not only are you helping your lungs to become more powerful, but you're opening up pathways to the nervous system, and you're allowing other parts of your body to become more efficient. Things like standing up nice and tall, being in a good positive strong position, not just when you're running, but this is like life in general. Having a strong midsection keeps your body up long and tall, keeps that spine erect, means that you're less likely to have that kind of arching over when you get older. The nervous pathways to your lungs, from your lungs to your brains, and out from everywhere else. And not to mention that the normal reason for breathing is to get more oxygenated blood to the places in your body that need it the most. trying to reduce the sympathetic response. So the sympathetic response is that flight or fight, where your body clenches up, your respiration increases, your blood pressure increases, your heart rate, everything increases. The problem with that is everything tightens up as well. What we want to do is we want to create a space where everything is relaxed, everything is easy. And the deeper you breathe and the more you breathe through your nose, the more relaxed your nervous system is, and the more you can go and push without triggering that fight or flight. And a good way to think of that sympathetic nervous response is when you're in a race and the gun goes off and your heart rate goes, you're like, you're excited, everything's going. The problem is adrenaline's pumping through your blood, and although it only lasts for split seconds, the effects can be long.
The damage is done, yeah.
Exactly. And someone runs past you and you go, oh, I've got to catch them, and you're trying to, your blood pressure goes up, you're forcing yourself, you're putting pressure on your body. Again, everything cramps up, everything tightens up, and it slows you down. So by relaxing and allowing yourself to breathe easier, more comfortably, you're allowing your body to move through those stressful parts of a race or an event easier, less stress on the body, meaning that you can function higher or better for longer. Cool. So going back to the question, is it important to breathe? Yes. Is there a right way to breathe? I don't know. Is there a more efficient way to breathe? There is definitely a more efficient way to breathe.
No, that's awesome that you're talking about this aspect of running, because that I think that there is not enough knowledge about that, and like you said, everyone breathes. So we think that there is no point in exercising that or perfecting that or thinking about it. But what I found in my own running is that actually thinking about breathing, not even doing anything exceptional, but thinking about how I breathe, or if I breathe enough, or from where I breathe, that makes all the difference in how I feel and how my posture change during runs. So thank you for that. That's a really cool part of your program, and the fact that you're sharing that, I think that's awesome.
Definitely. Yeah, sorry, you were going to say?
No, continue.
I'd be interested to find out. It's now been about 4 weeks, 5 weeks since the course.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. How are you finding adapting to it? Are you finding it okay? Does it all still make sense, or is it now kind of fading away a little bit and you need a little bit more of a reminder?
Well, I think that first of all, the fact that we've met every week was definitely helpful, because I took this time to actually be there with you and do exercises. So that's I think that's the problem or challenge for many of us, because we have so many things going on that we know that we should do some exercises, improve this and that, add some stretching, add some warm up, cool down, blah blah blah, whatever. But we are in rush always. So the fact that we actually had this course and we met, even though it was just once a week, that was very helpful. But I'm I think that in whole practice, I found my favorite elements, and to my favorite elements I stick, and I'm thinking about them, and they just somewhere around my head when I'm running. But rest, I'm like, oh, okay, maybe other time, or I just maybe forgot that we did something. So yeah, I think that's reminders or the additional sessions once in a while would be actually a good idea.
That's a really good idea, just to kind of refresh your mind. Drop in a few notes in our little group WhatsApp. I think that's a good idea. And you know what?
You should text, just like do the breath right now.
Yeah, just like, yeah, guys, remember me. But what you said is 100% true, and it happens to most people, and it happened to me as well. You pick out the pieces that work well and feel comfortable, and you go, right, just going to stick with that, and everything's getting better. And then you speak to your coach, and you're just going, oh, why haven't you done that? And yet, look, the stuff you're doing is great, but we also need to work on that part and that part and
Yeah.
that part. So yeah, you know, stick to what you're doing. That's great, but also try and implement the other little bits that help you elevate to the next level. That's
yeah, that's the hardest part. And actually that's, you know, connecting well to my next question, because we are talking about this practice as a long term goal, or something that you actually need to implement for maybe ever until you finish your running or whatever. And I was wondering if there's any quick wins in pose method, or in, you know, trying to improve your posture and improving your the way how your running technique looks like. So is there anything that every runner can do like tomorrow and actually, you know, improve or feel this little win?
Yeah. So let's start off with are you ever going to finish running pose method? Is there ever a way to finish? Well, I'm, what are we, 10 almost years in, and I'm still working on it. I kind of see it as a spiral. As you get better, that spiral gets tighter and tighter and tighter. And the things that you need to work on are finer and smaller and smaller and smaller. But there's always going to be something to work on. And again, if I can go back to the studying analogy, you know, yes, you get to your final year of school, and if you want to stop there, that's absolutely fine. You know, you can carry on perfectly okay. But if you want to go to university, or if you want to study further in any way, you know, you're going to need to dig into that subject just a little bit more. And it's the same thing with your running. You know, you get to a point where everything is connected and you feel better. And then it's your chance to go, right, am I going to go further? Am I going to go faster? Do I want to run better? Or is there something else that I'm interested in, right? Triathlon, or, you know, like you were saying, there's other sport that have running involved, you know, football, rugby. We can go on for ages here. So are you ever going to be finished with learning is essentially what you're asking. And if you are interested in movement, and if you are interested in your body and health, the answer is going to be no. You're always going to find something, and there's always going to be something there to learn, develop, and get better at. But you don't have to. You can always stop at the point that you feel comfortable stopping at. So that's the first one. Are you ever going to finish studying? The next one, is there a quick fix, a quick way to change things? And I'm going to say yes, it's very controversial, but the quickest way to figure out how efficient your running is, one easy method. Take off your shoes, take off your socks, and run on a firm surface. And you'll very quickly see where all of that efficiency goes. Because if you go back to kind of our ancestral roots, watch how they move on solid ground, watch how they move on soft ground. Their bodies adjust really, really quickly. But if you have synthetic environments underneath your feet or on your body, so when we say synthetic environments, we're talking about the soles of shoes. They change the pitch of the foot. They change how your foot adapts to the ground. They change the proprioception. So proprioception is how your body understands time and space and what it feels underneath. If you can't feel what's going on underneath, you can't really conceive of what's going on in your body. You take your shoes and socks off, and if you run on hard sand, I'd say very careful if you're going to go out and run on concrete, but you'll feel very quickly that if you are running and you're barefoot, you'll notice your body position change very quickly. You won't be able to overstride. You won't be able to land on your heel very regularly. You'll find that your weight will shift when you land on the ground to your forefoot, or the ball of your foot, where your toes meet your foot. And that is essentially what we're looking for. Now, when you translate that back into running, that is what you're aiming to do as regularly and as often as possible. But you'll notice if you just do it once off. You'll get very tired very quickly, and it'll be uncomfortable very fast. And that's because our bodies aren't used to doing that. That's a really good indicator of where you are. Mm-hmm. That's a great test. And that's something that I do with a lot of the clients when I see them face to face. First thing, take off your shoes, take off your socks, run up and down, and let's talk. And they're pretty much sold after that.
That's very interesting. So can you explain actually what an average runner can expect after taking a time to improve his technique and to actually, doing some of the, maybe not all of the exercises, but some of them. So you mentioned that it will be, first of all, like better knowledge of your own body, right? But regarding running, if not the time results, is it like the guarantee for having less injuries, for example?
So that is exactly what got me into this in the first place, is reducing the amount of stress on your body, reducing the amount of injuries or the adaptation to what we're doing. If you look at this, and again, it's one of these kind of price things that I've done. If you look at the UK, physiotherapy appointments between 50 and 60 quid per session. After a marathon, you probably need 4 to 5 if you've done severe injuries to yourself. So, you're looking at close to 200 pounds already. And then it's all that time recovery, and then also all that added extra stuff. So you're kind of looking at, well, my shoes weren't working, so another 180 pounds for a pair of shoes. All of these extra costs that go along with, injuries. It's these hidden costs. I think education is very important. I think that there's a big marketing thing going on with shoe companies. Maybe not all shoe companies. There's definitely a few of them who do love a bit of marketing magic, and they can contribute to the issues, because people aren't aware of the underlying things that they talk about. So if you talk about, shoes with extra stability, so why do you need stability, and what is that shoe doing for you that you can't do on your own? Or what is that shoe now doing to you that you were doing beforehand but can no longer do? Or what is that shoe pushing you into that you shouldn't be doing? Mm-hmm. Pronation, overpronation, underpronation, all of those kind of terms are very loose. And if you look at them scientifically, there's no kind of actual proof of any of these things that they affect you as badly as all of the marketing says. Yes, you can over and underpronate, but given the circumstance of the situation, does your foot need to be able to do that? Say you stand on a rock. What happens? You don't feel it, or the shoe reacts too great in the opposite direction and you have an ankle injury. So these are the things that you want to look out for. And again, knowledge goes a great way to solving that. Right, is the shoe right for me? Well, this is the goal. This is what I'm trying to achieve. So this shoe isn't going to work for me. What about this shoe? Right. So it's a flatter base. It's a very thin sole, but it still has a little bit of sole. So I'm safe from, fragments of rock, like that, but it's not changing my posture. I can adjust that. So that's a shoe that I probably look more at for my type of running. So again, going back to education, that's the key thing. Avoiding injuries that you don't need to, and taking control of your own training. For me, that's really important. I love you guys, and the group that we train with, I would love to train you for the next 50 years. But like you mentioned, time constraints, financial constraints, and also, I don't want to have to hang out with you guys all the time. You're lovely people, but I'd get bored.
Not that much.
It's about helping you understand the beginning, and you can come back to me with the questions that help me understand how far you've grown as an independent runner. So if you keep coming back with the same questions, I'm like, okay, fine, I understand that's the point at which you're at. If you start coming back with, deeper questions. Okay, I figured this out. I've run in these shoes and they're not working, but I've run in these shoes as well and they're not working. Okay, right. So let's look at the similarities. Let's look at what you need, and let's look at what shoes you could be looking for. Right, off you go. You come back. Right, I found the right shoes. The only problem now is that this is the next problem. Okay, great. Let's talk about that. My hamstring's now hurt. Okay, fine. We've got a drill for that. If that's not working, make sure that you're spending some time in the sauna, for instance. That might work. Again, these are just ideas that have come from other clients' questions. They might not work for everybody, but it's this communication, it's this back and forth, it's this student-coach relationship that it shouldn't be a reliance on a coach. It shouldn't be a reliance on a piece of kit. It should be the knowledge that you can go out and go, okay, this will work for me. Right, it does. It doesn't work for me. Why not? And that's the next point. That's the next part. That's where we want to go.
That's very interesting. And there is one more element that I think you mentioned this a couple of times during our course, and that was visualizations. And I think that I also found something about it in the book, but I was wondering why it's actually the part of the conversation about running technique methodology.
Yeah, so again, this comes into the holistic approach. Rather than separating body, mind, and the rest of it, we want to put it all together. What happens up here is translated into our bodies. So we really want to understand what's going on in our mind and put our mind in a good position. And this is something that, is like when you think about what you're going to feel like in the future in a race, right? Oh my God, I feel so tired, I've got to really push at the end. And you automatically transfer what you're feeling in your mind into your body presently. Versus if you think about how you're doing right now and what you're doing right now, if you're present in what you're doing, you're much more in control of your body. And that's where we spoke about, concentrating on your breath, concentrating on your step count, concentrating on your pull, concentrating on your heart rate. If you're thinking about that right now, you're very aware of it and you're able to change it. Oh, my heart rate's down. Oh, my step count's too low. Oh, I've got to adjust this. And you're not able to think about what's going to happen in the future. You're just right there. And that goes back to reframing. It doesn't matter what time you get, because if you're thinking about a time that's like that thing, you're thinking halfway through a 10K and you want to get a 50-minute and you're at 30 minutes at the halfway, You're not going, there's a little bit of a downhill and, I'm going to feel fresh in the last 5Ks and it's not going to be a problem. You're thinking, oh my God, I'm behind by, 5 minutes. Like, how am I ever going to make this up? And then you're kind of visualizing back from, I'm going to have to run faster. I'm going to be tired. Do I have enough? And this is all coming back. And this mind thing is coming into your body where you are right now. So if you visualize what you're doing right there and then, and again, I think we spoke about the metronome, the pendulum swinging backwards and forwards from one side to the other, which again is like a new concept I've been trying to explain to people, and they're getting it. But kind of flicking through it so you're not constantly going on about like heart rate and pace and step count, but you're kind of clocking over and enjoying it, and then clocking over to what you're thinking about and being present again. It really just helps you create the space where you feel comfortable and confident with what you're doing. And again, it takes practice. It takes practice. Just like, can you run 10Ks? Well, if I haven't run 10Ks before, I don't know. Have you thought this way before? Well, if I haven't done it before in practice, how am I going to implement it in a race situation where there's so many more new inputs coming into your brain that you've got to kind of work out? And now you've got to, I'm happy all the time, I'm fine, I'm fresh. What do I need to think about? I forgot about that. So it's just about practicing, but visualization is so, so important. And again, if you talk to sports psychologists, how they communicate with their clients, it's so fascinating. You know, they'll meditate, they'll go through these little thought stories of what to expect, what to think, how to be in a better place. You know, what they're doing, what we're doing is no different. We've got the same tools. They're just more specific for that individual. We can use those tools too. We just need to be a little bit more open-minded about them.
Yeah, true. I would say from my own experience that this part is actually even more important than checking the route of the route, of the race itself. Because if you will start with wrong mindset and you will be in a bad place at the beginning, or you will get into those dark thoughts during the race, no knowledge about your route or map or whatever will help you. Just, you know, start from your head and then add additional pieces.
100%, 100%. And again, you've done a few ultramarathons, and from my experience, you know, you can train as much as you like. If you are not confident in what you've done in your training, then when the issues arise during the race, and they will, you run 100 miles, there will be loads of issues: chafing, dehydration, malnutrition, lack of sleep. It's your ability to deal with those problems that will help you get to the end of the race, not have to deal with, oh, you know, is my pacing right? What do I need to do? Is my head in the right space? You can kind of go, oh, I know all of this. Now I just need to focus on these little bits that I can deal with during the event.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'm glad that you understand this and you're applying it as well.
Yeah. I learned the hard way, I would say. Yeah, but you know, couple of years of running also taught me a few things. So yeah, that's definitely important. Even though I'm not coach myself and I'm far away from you know, the level of knowledge that we have around running, that I think that, you know, this is one of the biggest differences that you can actually feel if you actually practice and start to pay attention and, you know, realize that you did this. Because sometimes I think it's also very unaware that you're, you know, thinking about the race, putting this right mindset. But if you will realize that you just did that, you were thinking about this race, about hard moments, and you applied all those preparations to your race, and you know, you will review and summarize, then it's like, oh wow, yeah, that wasn't that hard, and it's helping. Yeah, right.
Exactly. Yes. Exactly. And you know, that again, you know, as we spoke about in the first part, you know, reframing. If you're going out there and your goal is to apply all of the skills that you've practiced, your race is going to be so much more entertaining and enjoyable. And when you get to the end, like you said, there's going to be so many more things to talk about and work on than just, oh, I got the time I wanted, oh, I was first, or oh, I wasn't first. It's like, oh, you know, at this point, you know, I could have been doing a little bit better. Oh, but at that point, you know, I absolutely nailed it. This is what I'm doing right. That's what I'm doing right. It just feels better when you've got understanding of what the training means.
Yes, totally agree. Okay, Coach, I think that we should wind down here because I kept you too long, I think. But can I ask you for any last words of wisdom for fellow runners? Anything, any area that you would like to go to?
Words of wisdom. I'm not a wise guy. I just think, you know, if you enjoy running, if you enjoy running, go out and run. You know, the tools that I share, it's all about helping people enjoy movement better, to enjoy their bodies a little bit more, and to make the most of their time. You know, if you enjoy running, run. If you have the focus of a time, go for it. You know, we all have different goals. We all have our different reasons for doing it. But if you're running, if you're training, if you're exercising, if you're moving your body, you're doing a whole bunch more than someone sitting on a couch complaining that they're not fit, they're not healthy, or they're not in the shape that they want to be. Go out and get moving.
Yeah, that's perfect. And Gil, thank you very, very much. That was so great, and I'm very happy that we were able to finally meet. Although we are far away, we are also here together, and that was really enjoyable for me. Thank you for making the time for all of us, for our listeners, and for sharing your knowledge, not only today but also throughout all those years that we know each other. And I think the last element that I want to maybe ask, because I'm very curious, what's your next race? I will keep my fingers crossed, of course.
Yeah, so absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity to share my words with the listeners. And
Pleasure.
Again, thank you for the listeners for getting to this part of the episode. I'm sure it's long, but yeah, really. It's great to be able to share my knowledge with people who are interested and want to do better. So again, if anyone wants to get in touch with me and reach out, I'm on Facebook, or on Instagram.
I will link all of your deets as well to this podcast, so it will be easy to find you.
Brilliant. And then what was the other question? Oh, my next race.
Yes.
So next race, I've been lucky enough to get a place on the Lakelands 50, which is kind of the big big run, the big trail run in the UK. It's kind of like the UTMB for the UK, the half UTMB for the UK.
Awesome.
So I'm training for that. And this year I've got some other challenges with my little boy who's 10 months now, and the weather, and there's just loads of other things with the business as well starting to take off, which is great. But obviously I've got to apply myself to my customers and my clients first before my training, which makes it a little bit more challenging. But this race is really for me a welcome back to trail running, a welcome back to kind of my roots of getting out and getting some really big distances in. And it's just an opportunity to see the Lake District in the UK in a way that you can't really do on your own, with just a group of crazy runners, really.
Yeah. What's the date of the race?
The date is the 30th of July. So not long.
Okay. Yes.
Not long. It will be summer. It will be one of the longest days of summer. So hopefully, I'm holding thumbs, I should be back before I need a headlamp. But
who knows? Who knows? Well, we are keeping fingers crossed for you, and maybe some of our listeners actually will join you, and hopefully they will be brave enough to say hi, and maybe you will run together. So who knows, right?
I would be absolutely honored. Give me a shout if you are running it. We'll catch up and definitely meet up at the event.
Perfect. Thank you again, Gil, and take care. We will be in touch, obviously, and I keep fingers crossed, not only for your race, but also for all of the other, all of your others endeavors. That's the hard word. So let's change this for adventures.
Definitely. Yeah. And good luck for your marathon. I know you're training really hard for that, and I'm really excited to see how you do on that. It's a lot of hard work, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of commitment. So I'm
very much
as well, and I know you're going to do well.
Ooh, thank you very much. I'm not so sure, but hopefully it will go well. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We'll speak soon. Cheers.
Thank you. Cheers. Bye.
Yeah.